Hey, what's up guys? So welcome back to the channel. This is Bama Jaybird Resale and I am Josh, and today we're going to talk about the importance of doing eBay inventory review. Now this can account for things like refreshing old listings and listing refinement. My store right now, I'm in the midst of conducting this for myself, and so I just thought I would share kind of the reasoning behind this and what my expectation is. And so, you know, my store right now is operating at around 1,100 items, and that's a little bigger than normal for me. I'm usually somewhere in the 800 to 900 range. I used to think I wanted to get to a certain number, like maybe 2,000 or something like that. And I may be there one day. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I'm more concerned with how well my store is performing with the inventory that is in it than I am with the total number of items of inventory that I have in the store. You know, as we look at this, so my sell-through rate in my store is down a little bit. And I know that's largely because over time, if we don't manage the old listings, we begin to have an accumulation of bad buys that are in our store, or maybe also not just bad buys, but items that we have purchased, and when we listed them initially, there was some error, we mispriced it, we did something to keep it from selling. And so it's so important to always be using good strategy, going back through our inventory, not just listing only new inventory, but managing the old inventory to make sure that we are getting the most out of our store. I would estimate right now that about 50% of the inventory in my store needs an overhaul to improve my overall store health. So I want my metrics to be better. I want eBay to see my store as a great place to send buyers, because I make sales and I move items and I make money for myself and for them. And so I do buy a bit of long tail items, probably more than I should. That probably also affects the sell-through rate of my store and causes sometimes items to accumulate. But again, the big thing that I find is that in the process of trying to overhaul or improve my store health, I begin to notice that it's errors, it's things that need to be done to certain items that were already listed, just improvements that need to be made. And so that's what I've been doing recently. I've been going box to box as I go through my SKU system, starting with my clothing, and I've been going back through each and every listing one box at a time and taking account of those listings. Some are older, some are newer, but I'm looking at every one of them individually and reevaluating those listings. And that's what I'm going to share with you. So how could this help you? Why should you do it? And the importance, I say this going box to box, and I'm ending those listings. So if I take a particular SKU number, say like 1C, when I ended everything that was in box 1C, I went back through each and every one of those items, and in reevaluating them, I had to determine whether to just edit and relist, or more so sell similar, because relisting, you don't get quite as much priority in how it's placed in the searches. So I want to get the max out of that on these older items, but whether to do the edits and to relist it, or to just delete it all together, donate it, or maybe put it in a yard sale pile. And I think it's important that we get to the point where we can detach from the inventory, be willing to move on either by closeout pricing or by donating, or whatever we have to do, right, to freshen up our store and get rid of those items that are bogging it down. All right, so we came back inside right quick. I just wanted to be able to sit down and really concentrate as I go through this next part with you. And so as we look at items that we have ended the listings on and begin to consider what kind of changes do we need to make. And again, this is different from just doing a refresh using the relist feature. We're talking about ending the items and reevaluating all of the information in the listing so that we can maybe get those items to move, or make the decision, if we have to just get rid of it altogether. And so we're going to be using the sell similar feature to do this. And so when I click sell similar on one of my items and I begin to scroll back through all the information from the old listing, the first thing, of course, that I'm going to look at is the title. I'm going to inspect the title. I'm going to look to see that I like the arrangement. Oftentimes we'll adjust the arrangement of the keywords used in the title. I will look for any errors that I might have made. Every now and then, we make a mistake. We're copying a listing from somewhere else. We forget to change something that, say the item specifics and the title don't match somewhere. So I'm looking for any kind of errors as well that are within the title, and I'm looking to make it better. Maybe there's more space. Maybe I didn't use all the characters and I can add an extra keyword. So anything I can do to improve the title, including the arrangement, but also any deletions or any corrections or any additions to that title. Another thing that I'm going to look at are item specifics, and specifically where I can maybe adjust keywords under things like theme and character and stuff like that. where I can add more information than what I currently have, because the more searchable we make our item, the more likely we are to sell it. And so anything we can do, as long as we're not putting incorrect terms in there, we can't, you know, go in there and make our item seem to be something that it's not, right? It's got to be authentic. We got to be authentic with the information. But there's a lot of words that can be used to describe certain items. Make sure that you are putting in as much as possible. If you have an item that's not moving, especially go in and make those changes. We also want to again look for any errors. Every section, look for errors, whether it's in the title, in the item specifics. Look for anything that is wrong. I find this in my own listings from time to time, and sometimes just that contradiction, it interrupts the algorithm. Maybe it sets buyers off when they do look at it. They're unsure, and so they just move on to one they can be sure about. They don't bother asking those questions, especially in a flooded category where there are too many options. They're just not going to play around with your option if it's not described right, or if it's got contradictions or problems. The next thing that I'm going to really pay attention to is pricing. Pricing is so important. I find that oftentimes the market shifts and it changes. Also, sometimes we just, in our first effort to price an item, we may, just like sometimes we underprice and it sells so fast that we're like, oh no, I messed up. Sometimes we do the same thing by overpricing. And sometimes too, like I said, at the time we list it, maybe it's demanding a little bit more money, and then it's been on there 6 months. Maybe it's been there in your inventory for a year. And, you know, it's just the market has shifted and it's worth $5 less or $10 less than what it was. And so you have to be willing to go in, even if you're just breaking even on some old items. I mean, it's just the way it is. An item that sits on your shelf for 5 years and never sells is not making you any money. And the money's already been invested in it. So if you never recoup anything out of it, the entirety of the investment is lost. So you got to kind of think along those terms. You got to be careful not to become too attached. And when it gets to be old and it's just getting really stale, don't be afraid to slash that price, guys. Get with the market, undercut the market, do what you have to get that item to sell. Another thing that I look at and I think is really important, I'll check my pictures, my photos. Some items in my store maybe were when I didn't have as good a lighting set up, and so I go back and refresh photos as I'm going through. Sometimes I forget to take a particular measurement, like when I'm doing clothes, I just get in a hurry and I'll forget one of the important measurements. I don't know if you do that, but I do that sometimes. You know, I make mistakes, and I mean, it happens. Sometimes all of my pictures don't load. I don't know if that's happened to you or not, but every now and then I'll get a question from a buyer about an item. I go in and I look at it. I'm like, what the heck, you know, because like my main photo is something weird. It's like a zoomed in picture of a button or something. And then I get to looking and it's missing all the really important photos, or maybe the measurement photos didn't load or something. And so it's very important to go back and review the inventory, because sometimes it's something really simple like that that's separating it from being a sold item or an item that just sits in your store way too long. Last, I would say adjust the description. I know the description doesn't impact search results as much as other things, but for your really invested buyers that like to know a lot about the item, it's really important to make sure that the description is up to snuff. Now, I don't overweight that. I don't just do tons and tons and tons of information. In fact, I do find it, I think it was Scott Chachin King who had made this comment. He said, you know, the pictures are where most items are going to sell. Most buyers are going to be heavily invested in inspecting and looking through those photos. So the more you can put into the photos, you got to think 24 pictures that you can take of an item. And you may not need 24 every time, but don't ever short yourself. The more thorough that can be, the less they're going to depend on description, because they're going to get the information they need from the photos, including measurements, size comparison, so many things you can do, right, to make those photos speak for themselves. And as the old adage goes, a picture's worth 1,000 words. So it is important, I think, that we have a description, but I would say this, don't get overburdened by it. And one of the things that I always try to do in my description is, one, make sure I know any flaws, because that is important. But number two, I really just try to refocus, shift the attention back to, please evaluate the item using the photos, because that's the best thing that I can offer. You want to know what kind of condition it's in, what it's like, really just need to go look at the photos and examine those, zoom in, take a look. And so I have just standard phrasing that I use for that on all items. That being said, I think if you look at all those things as you're doing sales similar, then you will have good success in getting a lot of those items to move. And that's what I've been doing. And I've had great success. So just in these last few weeks, I've been going, like I said, a couple boxes a day, trying to do at least one a day, one box of old inventory, go through it. Like I said, delist all of it. Just take a look at each item individually. Look at the old listing. In many cases, I'm taking it out. I'm doing clothing right now, so in many cases, I'm taking those clothing items out. I'm laying them on my new flat lay because some of my items that's been in my store a long time, they were not listed using my flat lay. So I'm getting a neater, nicer picture for the cover photo. I'm readjusting prices because I find that the longer I do eBay, the more I understand pricing. And sometimes it's really tough, especially on clothing items and some markets where there's a lot of competition, to get that price just right. There's a sweet spot where you're not costing yourself anything, but you're also not collecting inventory needlessly on a shelf that's not moving, and that's what we want to avoid. So anyway, like I said, I would just end by saying this, and we're going to do some what sold in just a minute if you want to stick around for that. But don't be afraid of closeout prices. I've already mentioned this, but don't be afraid of that. On items that you know you've just had too long, don't be afraid to slash that price. At least try to recoup the amount that you invested in it. Look, I want to make 4 times what I spend if I can on every item, 4 times or more. But if it comes down to an item's been in my store a really long time and I can at least just get my money back, or sometimes even when I'm listing a new item and I realize, oh man, I shouldn't have bought this, I overpaid. But if I can at least recoup my investment rather than just throwing that money away, then I feel like that's still doing me good in the end, because then I can take that money that's recouped and buy something better. And that's the goal. So sometimes you got to move on from bad inventory, and you got to be willing to do that. So don't let your store get bogged down. Again, I said this earlier. Don't let it get bogged down by poor performance. If you think about it in real life, if you are working in a business where you have salesmen, and you've got one salesman, man, that closes every single deal nearly that they start out with because they're just really good at their job, then you're going to naturally want to funnel people toward that salesman. I don't know exactly how the algorithm works, but I assure you there's got to be some kind of relationship between how well a store operates in moving its inventory and making sales, and how much traffic gets sent to your store. And so we want to make sure that we give ourselves every advantage. So make sure that we're doing our part. And if we do that, eBay's going to do its part. Poshmark's going to do its part. Mercari, whatever it is. If we are a good seller, we're a good seller, moving inventory, satisfied customers, we're going to get traffic. We're going to become more successful, and it's going to pay off in the end. One last thing I would say that you can do along the way, if you have items that aren't moving, sometimes, especially in competitive markets, try promotions. If you've already got a promotion on it and it's only 3%, 4%, whatever, bump it up. Throw it up to 8, 10%. Look, if it's a $20 item, if it's a $20 item and you got a 10% promotion, you're only going to pay a couple of bucks in promotional fees. So if that gets it out the door and out of your way and you've had it for a year, I think that's worth it. So, consider bumping those promotions up to get more eyeballs on the item and get it moved. Now, it's not going to do any good to get people looking at it if the price isn't right. But get that price right, get eyes on it, get it out the door, buy something that's going to sell itself a lot easier. The better the inventory, the better it sells, the faster it sells without us even having to do the best job in the listing. But the better we do, the better it's going to be, the better the sales will be. So anyway, look over that old inventory. It's a busy time to be doing it probably for me right now. Fourth quarter, I know that's probably crazy, but it's just kind of, sourcing slows down, and I haven't been able to source a lot anyway. So, I'm mixing in listing new inventory. I'm still listing heavily. I'm listing as much as I can every day. I don't even have a number at this point. I'm just trying to list as much as I can every single day. I'm staying buried in that, but in the midst of that, I'm trying to refresh again at least one container of listings every day. And I'm hoping to sell some of that during this fourth quarter as well while the sales are hot. And so take it for what you will. I don't know if that works for everybody, but that's what I'm doing, and it works for me. All right, let's take a look at some what sold, and then we'll get out of here. And let's go ahead and take a look at sales. 13 items going out the door for $626.50. So I hope I have a good weekend to supplement this and really have a good week overall. But it's been a good few days. Music is going to be a big part of this. There are 3 music sales. This first one is an Ed Kerr CD. This again is from the Contemporary Christian Music, and this sold for $6.77 plus shipping. I'm not going to say that every time, but whatever price I give you, just always remember, I do charge for shipping. I don't do free shipping. So whatever the price is I tell you, that's the price the item sold for. The buyer also has to pay shipping above that amount. So the next item going out, I've got some more of these hangers. These are those Ralph Lauren, Ralph Lauren polo style hangers. These are the nice ones that have the grips on the sides. These are 15.5 inches solid wood. These were actually an international purchase. Someone in Ireland bought these guys, and it's 5 hangers, and they were all in on these for over 60 bucks. I sold these to them for $20 plus shipping, but to ship it all the way to Ireland, guys, that was expensive for them. So I guess they really wanted these hangers. I don't know. But I'll take the 20 bucks that I made. I have almost nothing in these. If you watch the earlier videos, you know that I paid like $7 for probably over 100 hangers. So I'm making good money off of those, selling them in lots. I had to divide them up based on style and size and that type of thing. But I had several lots of those like that. I think 4 or 5 that were the 15.5 inch with the grips. All right, next up we have another CD. This is Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs Best Of. I actually have a record of these guys, the Woolly Bully record, in that record collection that I bought. This next item I've actually had in the store for a while. It's a vintage Warr vest. This is a puffer vest. I think this is late 70s, early 80s. I could be wrong. I've looked up the labels to be able to identify these before, but it's been a while since I've seen them, and I don't find a lot of Warr, so it doesn't stay as fresh on my mind as other things do. But either way, this was a really good sale, $45 plus shipping, and I think I gave $4.99 for that. That's been like last winter. Then I have this Orvis button down. It's kind of like a Hawaiian or tropical style shirt, extra large, and this sold for $23.99 plus shipping. Be careful about just buying anything that's Orvis, and know that when you buy it, you may have to wait a while. You know, you may have to wait for that right person to come along to be able to sell it. Very cool design though, cool colors. I think that helped that shirt, even though it's been listed a while. All right, next up, I'm not going to pick all of these up, but there are 27 of these. These are PlayStation magazines, okay? PlayStation magazines, and these are, well, from, I can't remember the dates, 2007, 8, 9, something like that. They're not really old, but they're not super new either. I mean, you can see some of these might have been worth selling individually. I don't know. I didn't really look them up. I got these for 10 cents each. So I got $2.70 in 27 of these. I sold those for $45 plus the shipping. So, I mean, I feel really good, really good about that particular purchase and that sale. I mean, you know, sometimes it's better to move stuff, right, than to try to break it all down into little bitty sales. And that's kind of been the way I've been approaching listing a lot more recently. Grouping and lotting things together that are similar. I think that's a really good strategy for turning over inventory, making money, getting capital back into your business that you can reinvest and then make it work for you again sooner. Capital that's sitting on your shelf in the form of inventory and not moving. I say this a lot, but it doesn't do you any good if it's sitting there for a long time. I get it when it's a rare item. I get it when it's a unique item that you know has a really high value and you're waiting it out. But guys, when we're buying everyday items like clothing items or something like that, you gotta be very careful. You don't wanna have tons of your capital just sitting there month after month after month after month, not making money for you. It's just sitting there. It's not in a savings account. It's sitting on a shelf. If anything, oftentimes the value is diminishing as it sits. So make sure we price it where we can move it, figure something out, get a sale going on in your store, do some promotions, do something, but save yourself from that cycle of just letting it sit. Next up, I have another CD. This is Michael Gleason, another contemporary Christian CD. Again, 30 cents into, in this case, $20 plus shipping. So, you know, some really good sales there. All of these CDs, all 3 of them were about 30 cents a piece. And I'm just curious, you know, this is the way my brain works. That last one was $20. I had one, I didn't even tell you how much this one was. It was $9.99 plus shipping, the Pharaohization by Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs. But $20, $9.99, and $6.77. So that is what $36.77. Say 36, yeah, $36.70. That's good enough, right? But $36.77, that's 90 cents, right? 90 cents into over $36. You know, you can't beat that. If you say $1 into 37, you know, great money making potential with CDs if you get them cheap enough and you get the right ones. Even though some of them don't sell individually as high, it's still, they're easy to list, guys. If they're in great shape, so easy to list, easy to pack and ship. I love it. All right, next I have a set of Bose speaker cables. These are the dual RCA ends 5 speaker set or 5 cable set for the Acoustimass systems. And these sold for $83.60 plus shipping. And this is just one of the pieces. Again, I parted out everything I bought from that local thrift store in that last, one of my last videos where I was picking. And man, it's turned out well. I mean, I've made a lot of money off that purchase. So that by itself paid for everything. And I've already made sales out of it. And then I also sold this set of Acoustimass speaker wires from Bose. This is the ribbon style, and it has the naked wire ends on this end. So these sold for $30 plus shipping. Next up, I have a pair of Dansko wedges. Dansko wedges. These are pretty nice. Very good condition, really almost like brand new. A size 37. These sold for $32 plus shipping. I think I gave $7 for those. It was either 5 or 7. I get those at that local thrift that always has the 75% off shoes. So I got 3 pair of women's shoes going out in this set of orders. This is a pair of Alegria lace-ups. Alegria, you know to check the bottoms of Danskos and Alegrias. Always check and make sure the rubber's still good on them. These are in great shape. I've actually had these for a while, and these are a larger size as well. But I sold these for $14.99 plus shipping. I didn't really make any money on these. This is a good example. When I've had something like this for over a year, keep doing things to it, try to get attention, and it's not selling. I got someone interested in these. They were listed for like $25 or $30. I mean, I sent an aggressive offer out, $14.99. Let's get rid of them. They took the offer. I'm getting them out of here. So that's my philosophy anyway. They may have more value than that, but not when they've sat in my store for a year. And that's what I was telling you earlier. Be careful not to leave capital. Don't leave your money tied up on a shelf, no matter what kind of good it is. Next up, I have this pair of Ariat jeans FR pants, 4230. This is the blue M4 low-rise boot cut, flame resistant, right? I say fire rated, sometimes it really means flame resistance. I got these for $1.99 at a local thrift store, and these sold for $37.77 plus shipping. So a really good profit on those. Ariat's always a good brand, whether it's their boots or their clothes. It's just a good brand to pick up if you can get it for the right price. And last, I have one more pair of shoes. This again is Dansko's. Again, kind of like a Mary Jane, much like the others that were wedges, Mary Jane style. These have straps at the back and not as high. These are more of a small heel. But anyway, these sold for $27.99 plus shipping. And again, the total for today was really good. For 13 orders, I was kind of surprised that it was as much as it was, but $626.50. So not quite, not quite 50 bucks an order, probably around $45 per order. I don't know that's including the shipping and everything, because that's the total price, right? That's all the fees, everything added. But that means that my sale price of my actual goods, I think it's going to probably be somewhere close to maybe 30 bucks. 30 to 35 is a pretty good average. I mean, because most of what we buy is resellers, at least for me. I seldom these days, if I break it down on an item per item basis, even with the Bose stuff, because I had so many listings out of that purchase, it's just rare that I have more than $10 in any one thing, and usually it's way less than $5. Electronics tend to run a little higher, so I may have a little more on average with my electronics and those types of buys. But guys, my investment per item is generally very minimal. So, all right, guys, so that's all I got for you today. But again, get those items moving. Don't be afraid to cut loose from bad buys and old inventory, and make sure you're doing all you can to get those items out of your store and cut your losses. But also, try to have a healthy store. It's so important to have a healthy store and have items turning over and moving. So go back into those inventory items programs and do those edits, make those changes, end them, sell similar, do what you got to do, get them moving out the door. And like I say, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button down below. Also, give me the thumbs up. I'd really appreciate that. If you've watched, that really helps the algorithm, helps more people get to see these videos, and that helps me. And so drop a comment also if you got anything that you'd like to hear about, something that you got a question about, anything that you would like to add to what I've talked about today. I'd love to hear back from you. I've learned so much from the reselling community, both those that make videos and those that just comment on videos that they're watching. It's such a great resource for all of us, and I'm thankful for the great reselling community out there that I've benefited so much from as I've learned how to do this job, and I hope to be a help to some of you. I'm definitely not the one that knows everything, but I'm just sharing the little bit that I do know. And if that helps somebody along the way, then thank God for that. But anyway, like I always say, I love you, God loves you, and whatever you do, guys, don't you ever give up. And I will see you on the next one.